Hi guys, this is Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violins, and today is video 1 of an 8-video series about effective practicing techniques. I've got a lot of information to share with you guys, so buckle your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, there are a lot of points that I would want to cover with practicing in general, but there are two main points that I think you should remember for all of your practicing. Number one is consistency is key. It's very important that you make practicing a habit. Now, nobody has time to go to the gym. Nobody has time to practice. Nobody has time to whatever, fill in the blank. If you've decided that being better at your instrument is important to you and you've set a goal, then simply set a time aside every day or 5 days a week where you practice. After a while, it will become habit and you will just always do it. It'll just be a part of, whatever it is that you do. The thing is about consistency is you don't have to be perfect with your practice. You don't have to put in as much time perhaps as you'd like. The point is that being a consistent practicer, well, it just adds up. The time adds up. If you're a person who, let's say, practices 3 times a week and you have a really good practice session 3 times a week, or let's say you're a person who practices 6 times a week, but the practice sessions aren't as perfect. Well, the person who practices 6 times and they put in, it's an 85% practice session instead of a 99% practice session, those extra few days every week are going to add up. And then by the end of the year, you're going to have practiced hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours more than you would have if you waited for just the right time, just the right practice session, just the right amount of time to put in and everything else. So really, consistency is key. Just create a time, put it in your schedule, and do it. The second main point is you want to play something correctly as many times as you can. Every time you play something correctly, it's money in the bank. You see, the way that the human brain works is that it's not necessarily particularly smart when you're training your subconscious. When you're practicing, you're training your subconscious. Even if your conscious mind knows if something's good or bad, it doesn't really make any difference. What matters is what you're training your brain with, what you're repeating over and over again. That ultimately is what your brain is going to remember. So for example, let's say you play a difficult passage 9 times and you play it wrong. On the 10th time, you finally get it right. And then you move on to another passage. Wrong. That is a trap, and you don't want to fall into that trap. It's very important that you practice something until you can't get it wrong. I'll say that again. It's very important that you practice something until you can't get it wrong. So that means that you play it so many times correctly that you just can't play it wrong because your subconscious won't allow you to, because it's going to latch on to that correct way that you practiced and it's going to want to repeat that over and over again. Have you ever had a passage where it seemed like you could never learn it? Doesn't matter how many times you played it, how many times you got it right, you could just never get past it? Well, probably it's because you played it so many times wrong that that's just what your mind is favoring, right? Your mind will basically just remember whatever it is that you've done the most. So if you can't play a certain passage, let's say 3 times correctly before you, speed it up, then you got to slow it down, play it 3 times correctly, where you're very consistent and you play it right, and then speed up your metronome, we'll talk more about that later, and then play it another 3 times. So play it as many times as you can. Doesn't matter the speed. If you can only play it really slow, that's fine. Play it really slow as many times as you can correctly. At least 3 times, 3 to 10 times in a row without playing it wrong. And then finally you build up the speed and then you won't be able to play it wrong. Practice something until you can't play it wrong. Okay, so here's some minor points that I will be covering in my later videos, okay? These are just some points that are characteristics of people who practice really well and are very, very good players. Everybody that you know who is a great player incorporates these techniques into their practice sessions. So number one, it's really important to warm up. You want to warm up your mind and you want to warm up your body. That means that you need a dedicated warm-up routine. Now, most people warm up with exercises and scales, generally speaking. I will go into more detail in later videos on just how to practice your scales and some routines that you could add to your practice session, but it's very important. Anybody, if you feel rushed for time, you say, oh, I only have a half an hour to practice today instead of my hour or 45 minutes or 2 hours or whatever it is, and you skip your warm-up, you're probably just wasting your entire practice session. If you don't warm up your body and warm up your mind, then you will end up making mistakes that you normally wouldn't make, and all you're doing is teaching your mind to do the wrong thing. So you need a proper warm-up. Warm-ups, like I said, usually are composed of scales and exercises. After a proper warm-up, then you're ready to go. The next minor point would be it's very important to use a metronome in your practice sessions. I promise you, every great player that you see on YouTube practices with a metronome, especially great orchestral players. The reason is very simple. A metronome is perfection. It's a machine and it's perfect, assuming you bought a decent one anyway. You want to integrate perfection with your practice sessions as much as possible. That perfection of that metronome will start to wear on you, and then your body, your mind will incorporate the perfection that is the metronome. It'll make it so you play even, it'll make it so you hear your strokes better, it'll make it so you hear your sound better, it'll make it so you don't rush, it'll improve your stroke, it'll improve your accuracy. A metronome is perfection in so many ways, and it'll help you incorporate a lot more perfection in your playing. The next minor point would be slow practice. So remember, slow practice equals fast practice. Again, you must be patient when you're practicing. The slower you practice, the slower tempos that you pick so you can play something correctly instead of incorrectly, that's money in the bank. The more time you give yourself to warm up properly, warming up your mind and warming up your body, means you'll have a more focused and more beneficial practice. So really, slow practice equals fast practice. You will learn faster. It doesn't seem like it, but when you take your time and you do things correctly, especially warming up and whatnot, that will actually create the situation where you are learning faster. You're in a more focused, and you will be in an environment that cultivates perfection and efficiency. The last point would be endurance. It's really important to take breaks. When you incorporate breaks into your practice session, you'll find that you can practice a lot more. They've done a lot of studies on the human mind. Most people, even the best of us, can really only remain super focused for about 45 minutes maximum. So you need to find out whatever your maximum is. After a while, perhaps you will build up that time. It could be 20 minutes, could be 30 minutes, could be 45 minutes. But regardless of what that is, find out what that period of time is where your mind doesn't start wandering, and take a break. Go to the restroom, go to the kitchen, hang out, do whatever you got to do, but take a break. Give your body a break, give your mind a break. Then you go back in, and then you're ready to be really, really focused. If you can remain really focused in your practice session, you will be surprised at how efficient and how much you can learn in a very short period of time. In college, I learned to take breaks. I learned how really important it was. I used to be able to practice maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and then I was just exhausted, and I just found that I was just wasting my time. But I would practice for 45 minutes and then take a little break, and then practice another 45 minutes and then take maybe a longer break. And then I would come back and practice. So I could actually put in double the practice time, sometimes even triple the practice time in one day, just for the mere fact that I was taking breaks. My mind was able to be fresh and to remain focused, and I could accomplish a lot in a very short period of time. So really, watch yourself to have the best endurance. Just take breaks, take it easy. You'll be surprised at how effective your practicing can be. So guys, that's just a little bit of a sample of some of the videos that I'm going to be doing. The next videos, I'm going to be going into some of those subjects and some additional ones in a little bit more detail. And I'm going to show you exactly how to incorporate these really effective practice techniques so you can be a monster practicer and you can really get a lot accomplished and you won't feel like you're just spinning your wheels. And guys, if you have any other questions or comments, just put them below the video in the comment section, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that little bell, just click that. That way you'll get a notification when I create a new video, and I'm going to be making a lot of new videos these days. And of course, don't forget, here at Kennedy Violins, we're all players and teachers. We're always happy to answer any kind of question you have anytime. Thanks, guys.